Hey, women's basketball fans, Erica Lindsay Ayala here. Thank you for making Locked On Women's Basketball one of your first listens of the day. On today's episode, we're going to go over NCAA Power Rankings, a top 40 under 40 list created by The Athletic, and make sure you stick around. At the end of the episode, I'm going to give you some of my favorite creators to support as we are coming up on the holiday season, and I'll even drop you a Power Forward promo code. Check it all out on this episode of Locked on Women's Basketball.
You are Locked On Women's Basketball, your daily podcast on women's basketball. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, women's basketball, Erica Lindsay Ayala here. I am one of your hosts of Locked On Women's Basketball. And before we get started, I want to make sure you know that this episode of Locked On Women's Basketball is sponsored by TrueBill. TrueBill is the new app that lets you save money by helping you identify and stop paying for the subscriptions you don't want or need, and can even negotiate better deals on those you want to keep. You'll learn more about TrueBill as we get going. All right, so let's talk about power rankings. I'm not going to do the audio this episode, but as always, check out Autumn Johnson, the video over at ncaa.com, and it will be in the show notes. But here are your power rankings. Now, we've had a few holiday tournaments. Obviously, South Carolina got a big win over UConn, and as a matter of fact, South Carolina is at the top of the table. South Carolina followed by UConn, and then Maryland holding on to that 3 spot. Stanford at 4, Indiana at 5, NC State at 6, Iowa stays in the top 10, but at 7. Louisville, Baylor, and Arizona round out your 8, 9, and 10 spots. So here we go. This is what Autumn is talking about. The Gamecocks remain unbeatable, defeating Clemson, Buffalo, and they also got a win against Oregon. And then, of course, we talked about the Battle of Atlantis, I think was the tournament. I love seeing all the places that these tournaments are held. You know, we have to still stay safe. It's still COVID, but it was pretty dope. They got the win against UConn on Monday, the 22nd. So that's a pretty good week for the Gamecocks. As far as UConn, the Battle for Atlantis is what it was called. They got wins over Minnesota, big win against Minnesota. Christina Williams came up clutch, and you heard Gino Auriemma talking, and it was reported that we know what Paige Beckers, excuse me. I want to always call her Buckets. That's trademarked, as I understand. Anyway, you know what Paige is going to do. We've already seen consistency start to grow with AZ Fudd. So it was a matter of how Christina Williams was going to insert herself into this UConn lineup. A 31-point performance, not bad from Christina Williams. And then again, Paige Beckers and AZ Fudd going to do Paige Beckers and AZ Fudd type things. All right. The Maryland Terps got a win versus Mount St. Mary and UNC Wilmington, but then they got a what Autumn called a gritty win over Baylor, 79-76. This is a character type win. Nikki Cullen and the Baylor Lady Bears are a formidable opponent. So good to see that Maryland can outlast some heavy hitters. They had a limited bench. Katie Benzan and Diamond Miller had limited minutes, but were still able to contribute. And you love to see that. You love to see a team that has that confidence and that they can put their aces in places, even if their 100% is only 25% of their full capacity. So, then is Stanford. We talked about the defending champions going up and down in these rankings even early in the season, but they got a big win against Texas. They defeated Portland and Gonzaga. That Zags game came down to the wire, but Stanford able to get it done. They are just ahead of Indiana, who are building momentum, Autumn says, after winning against Kentucky, Norfolk, and Quinnipiac. Good to see Quinnipiac making it in the conversation of women's basketball. Obviously, they had a really great run a few years ago. All right, NC State Wolfpack. There was a WNIT preseason classic. They were a perfect 4-0 in that. Played Townsend. They played Kansas State. And, we see that the only blemish from this NC State team comes from that loss to South Carolina. But that's the top team. That's the team to beat, at least as of right now, according to Autumn and the NCAA rankings. Mentioned Iowa, Caitlin Clark, and Monica Cesano, 16 points each in a win over Southern University, 87-67. They were playing in the Cancun Challenge. Again, these locations are so dope. Louisville, since the upset against Arizona, Autumn writes, the Cardinals are starting to make some strides, going 3-0 in week 2. So they got wins over UT Martin, Washington, and are starting to get some production. Baylor Bears, first loss of the season. We already mentioned this. They lost to Maryland, 79-76. They stay at the 9 spot, though, Autumn writes, after watching their, quote, gritty fight they put up against a team who held the number 1 scoring offense in the nation last year and only fell by 1 possession. The Terps averaged 90 points a game, but the Bears defense only held them to 79. So something that they're going to want to figure out there, or that other teams are going to figure out about Baylor. And the top 10 rounded out by Arizona. Autumn writes, I've had my eye on the Wildcats, who were a bubble team in my preseason rankings and now break into my Power 10 after Oregon received its first loss of the season against number 1 South Carolina. So that Oregon loss bumps Arizona up. Let's see how those two Pac-12 teams end up in the rankings. Okay, so those are your NCAA rankings. Again, I'm getting that from NCAA.com. Autumn Johnson, go check it out. That's my go-to spot when it comes to getting a really quick roundup. It's a top 10 roundup, so it's not everything, but it's a quick roundup of what's happening in women's basketball. But coming up next, we are going to talk about another list, more than 10, but it's 40 under 40. I really like this idea by The Athletic. Chantel Jennings put together a list, and you know how these lists can go. I know I've put together a few lists that have made people angry. I ain't mad, but I do have some things that stood out to me. We're going to talk about that coming up next. Right now, though, I want to make sure that you are getting ready for the holiday season. And one way to do that is, before you get all your shopping done, is to make sure you have your money in line. So TrueBill is a new app that helps you identify and stop paying for subscriptions you don't need, want, or that you just forgot about, to be honest. On average, people save $120 a year using TrueBill. Think about how much you can buy for yourself, build up your business, and for your loved ones with a $720 extra at the end of the year. Companies make subscriptions hard to cancel, but TrueBill makes it incredibly simple. Just link your accounts and TrueBill will cancel your unwanted subscriptions in one tap. And your TrueBill concierge is there when you need them to cancel unwanted subscriptions, so you don't have to. So don't fall for the subscription scams. Start canceling today at truebill.com/lockedonnba. Go right now. truebill.com/lockedonnba. I know I'm about to. It could save you thousands a year. truebill.com/lockedonnba. And once you save your money, another way to save money, but also to make sure you're not hangry and that you're not putting on unwanted calories, is to rock with our friends at Built Bar. Built Bar is a new perfect holiday dessert. Yeah, I said that right. A new holiday dessert. Instead of a 300-calorie slice of apple pie, which I do love, by the way, But every once in a while, switch that out for a Built Bar, which is low calorie, low carb, low fat, and high in protein. I mean, when you have flavors like cookie dough chunk, cherry barcia, coconut almond, what is not to like? Built is a great option for when you're hungry, when you're hangry, and if Thanksgiving isn't coming soon enough, grab for a Built Bar. So when you head over to built.com to place your next order, use LOCKED15 as your promo code, and that will get you 15% off your next order. Use promo code LOCKED15 for 15% off at Built Bar. All right, so I mentioned The Athletic 40 Under 40. Now, just as a reminder, The Athletic is a paid subscription model. We just talked about TrueBill, but it's a paid subscription model, but there is a deal this month. I am a contributor to The Athletic, so I definitely read The Athletic, and 40 Under 40 Rising Stars in Women's Basketball. I'm going to read the beginning for you and then walk through some of the rankings that I thought stood out and that I love, and some that I thought were interesting picks, but maybe a little bit high on the list. The women's basketball world is small, writes Chantel Jennings. Top college basketball recruits funnel into many of the same programs. Coaches eager to keep their programs on top look for the best young coaches in the game to continue their program's elite stature. From there, it channels into a league with even tighter constrictions. The WNBA currently has at most 144 spots for only 12 positions and only 12 positions for head coaches, and 36 assistants. We canvassed women's hoops landscape for people who are leaving an indelible mark on the game. And here are 40 people, all under the age of 40, who are spurring on that progress. Number one on the list, friend of the podcast and a friend of mine, Jasmine Baker, aka We Got Game 2, a WNBA grassroots merchandiser. So I love that. And I also love that Jasmine is now working with my favorite hockey team, the Metropolitan Riveters. Love to see Jasmine on the list. She's at number one, ahead of a lot of people, including Paige Beckers, Elena Beard, who's next, Andrea Carter, who's in the top 5. Rounding out the top 5 is another friend of the pod, friend of mine, Ari Chambers, crushing the game at Dirty 30. I love it. That's the top 5. In your top 10, you have Lasia Clarendon, Marcus Crenshaw, Megan Duffy. Okay, Big East. I love it. Claire Duellis, Allison Gaylor, Michael Goldschall, Walt Hopkins, Jonathan Kolb, Vince Kozar, Chris Lumague. I'm sorry if I'm saying that wrong. Yolette McEwen, Renee Montgomery at 17, Carrie Moore, Maya Moore at 19, and Marissa Mosley at 20. Okay. I'm going to let y'all know right now, having Walt Hopkins and Jonathan Kolb ahead of Maya Moore and Renee Montgomery stood out to me. So let's see what put Walt Hopkins over the edge. Youngest head coach in the WNBA, has Sabrina Ionescu, Natasha Howard, Benijah Laney under contract for at least the next 2 seasons. Hopkins and the Liberty are expected to continue their ascent and give Hopkins some roster stability in 2022 and 2023. All that sounds great. I am curious. I'm not a full believer yet, but I'm definitely curious to see if Hopkins and the Liberty will continue the way they ended the season, because there were a lot of hiccups in between. Not a full believer, but I'm also not a believer that Walt Hopkins is number 12 on this list ahead of Maya Moore and Renee Montgomery. That's my opinion. Same with Jonathan Kolb. And if anything, I probably would have put these two together. But the hybrid rebuild model of the New York Liberty is what's happening here, and why Jonathan Kolb makes this list. Also picking up the contracts of Sammy Whitcomb, and of course, recruiting, or I should say drafting, Michaela Onyenwere and Dee Richards. Again, I'm not sold completely. I am I know I wrote a piece for The Athletic talking about the New York Liberty. I'm very intrigued, but I'm not 100% sold. And I still think there's a lot of work that both Jonathan Kolb and Walt Hopkins have to do. But come on! Ahead of Renee Montgomery, bought a whole team paired with the number one person on this list, Jasmine Baker, to do a hot drop in Atlanta. I mean, is investing in venture capital, has a podcast that is now picked up by the what's that guy's name from ESPN? She has been involved in football, is everywhere on ESPN. Renee Montgomery, put some respect on Renee Montgomery's name. The same goes for Maya Moore. Now, Maya Moore being at 19 overall doesn't bother me. Being behind Walt Hopkins and Jonathan Kolb bothers me because Maya Moore, everything from how the game is played, thinking of modern day kind of franchises or, dynasties, if you will, to where the WNBA is when it comes to social justice, that Maya Moore was doing all of this and y'all wasn't messing with Maya Moore. Y'all were not even focused on her for I could name a bunch of reasons, including even maybe her faith and how she lives her life. But, and I mean that because she's a quiet and reserved person. And quiet and reserved people have to be exemplary to even get a blip of coverage. We like controversial. We like entertainment. And Maya Moore is hella entertaining. But she's steadfast, she's steady, and sometimes people find that boring, which I have thoughts on. But Maya Moore, put some respect on Maya Moore. Also, I know the list is 40 under 40. I mean, you have, the list goes on and on. Ryan Ruocco is interesting for me. He's 35, so he's my age. His genuine enthusiasm and love for women's basketball comes across in every game he calls. I love me some Ryan Ruocco. I love me some Monica McNutt even more. That's all I got to say about that. I'm pretty sure Monica McNutt is under 40 years old. So anyway, check out the list. Let me know what you think in the comments. I think it's a pretty dope idea overall, but everyone's got their own opinion. I love seeing Jasmine on this list. I love seeing Renee on this list. I think it is curious to have Jonathan Kolb and Walt Hopkins on this list. Wouldn't have had them that high up, but let me know what y'all think in the comments. Coming up next, speaking of Jasmine Baker, Ari Chambers, we're going to talk about some dope creators, Christina Williams. And I always have to give love to the Black sportswoman and Bria Felician, who honestly, see what I'm talking about? Bria Felician needs to be on somebody's list, okay? But you know what? Don't worry, sis. I got you because you are on my list. That's what's coming up next on Locked On Women's Basketball. Right now, let me tell you about BetOnline.ag. It's Thanksgiving, and you know what that means? Football for a lot of people. Not for me, but for a lot of people. Nothing goes better with football than turkey and betting. BetOnline has you covered all holiday season. More props, odds, lines than ever before. And even with all this newness and upgraded website and interface, BetOnline remains the number one spot for all the sports action this Thanksgiving. Head to the new website, use your desktop, your laptop, your mobile device, whatever you got, and use promo code LOCKEDON to receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. But it's not just football. We're a basketball podcast. We've got NBA, college hoops, NHL, which is my other podcast, boxing, and even your favorite Vegas casino games. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way to bet on all your favorite sports. BetOnline, we're stuffed with deals this Thanksgiving. Get what they're stuffed, get it? Oh, I love that. All right. I told you I want to get you into the holiday spirit, the holiday season. One great way to do that, of course, is to get you some deals. And I'm going to give you, I have a 30% promo code that I'm going to share with you for Power Forward. I'll tell you a little bit more about Power Forward in a little bit. But first, I want to tell you about some creators that you need to know. Ari Chambers is on that top 40 list. Okay. If you didn't know, HighlightHER. Do y'all even know the story of HighlightHER? do y'all know that HighlightHER started as a random We Are Jayla? Who is Jayla? Is that was her name? I don't know. I don't know a Jayla. Never met a Jayla in my life. Sorry to that person. I don't know that person. Jayla. It was We Are Jayla or something. Ari Chambers built an entire vertical of Bleacher Report on her own for the first year plus. Now, HighlightHER, and if y'all listen to the podcast, you know how I feel about the orange hoodie, quote unquote, the orange hoodie. I was like, I ain't getting an orange hoodie. I ain't getting no dang orange hoodie. I'm not doing that. But I'll tell you what, I do have this orange hoodie. I do have the HighlightHER and WNBA hoodie. I took it off yesterday, so I had it over here on my little bench. This hoodie is dope. If you watch me on social media, you know I love, this is like my travel hoodie. It has the history of the WNBA. So this is a WNBA HighlightHER collaboration. It's not my place to tell the story, and I hope that we get into just what it takes. And I'm not just talking about Ari here. For all of these creators that I'm gonna highlight. You see what I did there? The proof of concept, the height that we have to reach for a proof of concept for women's stuff, for Black women's merch. Jasmine Baker being on the top of that list is so dope, because I've been around people who have had to grind and have had to show such a high proof of concept. HighlightHER started We Are Jayla. I don't know what that is. Now they have a merch line with the WNBA. The WNBA is so important on Twitter. A Twitter commercial that was nationally televised. So if you head over to Bleacher Report, check out the WNBA HighlightHER line. They have shirts and hoodies, designs for every WNBA team, and of course their very own HighlightHER orange hoodie, which I will tell you, I was on a flight and they got like those little blue lights or whatever, and it like lights up. HighlightHER highlighted me literally in this hoodie. Check that out. Next thing I want to tell you about, and I talk about this all the time, but that's because it's dope, is the Black sportswoman. So I reached out to Bria Felician, friend of the pod, personal friend, helping me get my stuff together. Black Rosie. We're going to talk about Black Rosie in a minute. But the Black sportswoman, this comes from Bria, is where Black history meets women's sports. Their mission is to amplify the stories of Black women athletes in sports and tell researched, reported, quality storytelling centering Black women athletes and their contributions to sports. If you are an advocate for women in sports and quality stories about them, become a paid member today at $8 a month. $8 a month to get some fantastic storytelling. I've told the story about Black women coaches. There is a timeline of Black women coaches created by Bria Felician over at the Black Sportswoman. Check the show notes. Check out the Black Sportswoman. Okay, the other one I want to tell you about is Christina Williams. Now, Christina Williams did not make this 20 list or whatever, but Christina Williams has Women's Sports Wednesday on, now it's on Spotify, Green Room. Christina Williams, Girls Talk Sports TV, has been on the 30 Under 30, is absolutely crushing it. So Christina Williams and PG Sports, which is the managing company with Renee Montgomery. So Believe Black Women, #credentialed, which I love, or verified. I love it. Believe Black Women is the line for Christina Williams on PG Sports. Check that out in the show notes. But here's what Christina Williams said about her merch. PG Sports and Girls Talk Sports TV unveiled a co-branded Believe Black Women collection to highlight and celebrate the impact women have in sports. Far too often, Black women are denied access, questioned about their qualifications, come through, or feel unseen in an industry that does not look like them. This collection was made to acknowledge, empower, and recognize hashtag Black Girl Magic. Check that out. Christina Williams doing big things with PG Sports. They collaborated on that merch line, which I absolutely love. And so, I promised you I would give you a code. As promised, I told you I was going to give you 30% off, and that 30% off is for my Power Forward shop. 30% off when you use promo code Black Rosie. Now, granted, I want to make sure y'all are getting my stuff because this is going to help me get to Beijing. But Black Rosie, empowering melanated people in sports, that 30% off you can use store-wide. So head over to Power Forward, get you some Black Rosie. You can get the Kelsey Trainer Invest in Women, Pay Women, Hire Women shirt. The proceeds there go to Black Girl Hockey Club. So promo code Black Rosie at Power Forward. And make sure you check out all of the other dope creators that I mentioned, the links to buy the merch. And in the case of the Black Sportswoman, the link to subscribe is in the show notes. That's going to do for this episode of Locked On Women's Basketball. As always, I am your host, Erica Lindsay Ayala. Make sure that you support Black women, that you pay Black women for their work. And like Christina Williams says, that you give them proper credit, because a lot of times, I've talked about it on this show, unfortunately, that's not the case. So from Black Rosie to HighlightHER to the Black Sportswoman to Believe Women, hashtag, credentialed, like, let's support Black creators, and whether they're on a 40 list or not, I promise you they're putting in work. Until next episode, happy Thanksgiving. I'll drop a little something for y'all tomorrow, but happy Thanksgiving for those who are celebrating. And what I mean by that is truly take time to be thankful for the things that you have. Be thankful for the things that you've let go of, and the things that no longer serve you. You can be thankful to let those things go as well. But either way, I wish you love, I wish you light, and I will catch you on the next episode of Locked On Women's Basketball.